À l'aube des années 80, alors qu'une nouvelle avant-garde artistique envahit les murs et les rues de New York, au milieu d'une ville en pleine faillite économique, un jeune adolescent de 15 ans va changer le cours de l'histoire de l'art. Lui, l'enfant né d'un père haïtien, d'une mère portoricaine, va apporter un nouveau souffle, devenant le premier grand peintre noir à ouvrir l'art moderne au reste du monde. C'est ici, à New York, que commence la légende de Jean-Michel Basquiat. Comme une fulgurance, une comète, Basquiat accomplit son œuvre en moins de 7 ans. Rimbaud des temps modernes, son œuvre gardera l'empreinte de la jeunesse. C'était il y a un siècle, tout juste un peu plus de 20 ans. 1988, dans le chaos de Downtown, à peine âgé de 27 ans, Jean-Michel Basquiat livre un ultime combat. C'est là, sur Regent Street, dans la solitude de l'atelier, qu'il couche et recouvre les toiles de mots et de textes qui racontent sa vie. C'est une œuvre testament, mais Jean-Michel Basquiat ne le saura jamais.
He did some paintings very close to his death called Erica 1, or Erica 2, and it turns out that it was a piece of classical music. He also wrote Man Dies, Man Dies, Man Dies. These were very shortly before he died. But it was really a death march. It's almost like he knew he was going to die.
I mean, the one thing that I witnessed was what was going on, you know, right before his last show at Vrej Bogumian, where he just, you know, he didn't want to do the show. He was afraid. He was blocked.
La chose la plus terrible, c'est qu'il était seul. Qu'il était seul, et c'était très triste.
And it seemed like even painting wasn't doing for him or giving him the thing that he got from it before.
Il y avait un autoportrait qui était terrible. Et là, quand j'ai vu ce portrait, j'ai dit c'est la mort est en lui.
C'était la toile où il y avait un mort qui montait sur un espèce de cheval, un squelette comme ça, je crois.
It's the most sad painting because he did it shortly before his death. But that's my favorite. I think it's the most beautiful.
Then, you know, he produced a show that was, in a way, kind of a triumph, but he did it in like 3 days.
I met Jean-Michel Basquiat right here in Washington Square Park. It was the summer of 1976. We were both 15 years old. We were some of the kids of color in this area. I had an assignment to make a small Super 8 film. So I called up Jean. I said, hey, meet me in the East Village at Astor Place, and we'll get together and I'll just film you walking around the streets of Soho, writing some graffiti. And he said, okay, fine.
At some point, I started to notice some different graffiti that was up there. Small, poetic statements that were mysterious to me.
He signed his name Samo, and then he put a little C behind it for copyright.
Il s'appelait Samo, S-A-M-O, pour Same Old Shit. Les murs étaient le support idéal pour lui.
Even 78, 79, he was already famous for doing the Samo graffiti pieces, but nobody knew who he was.
Naya Bengi, coming through on the MIC. Easy, like 1, 2, 3.
He was doing these Samo pieces all over the Soho. He would do them before anyone would see him doing them and run away.
He only did it, you know, around the art galleries, the scene, the art world, whatever.
I filmed him tagging up on the street. He just seemed like a perfect subject for film.
He was breaking new ground, but also he told me something once, which was he was frustrated because he couldn't get the style of graffiti. He didn't know how to write like a graffiti artist, but he didn't have to because he was doing something different.
They weren't graffiti artists or graffiti writers in the usual sense of the word, because those guys really, it was kind of just, they were participating in almost the sport of graffiti. It was, you know, getting up all over the city was quite an accomplishment.
He was separate from the graffiti culture because the graffiti culture was about groups of graffiti artists and gangs and crews and everything like that. He was not part of it. The graffiti scene was full-blown. There was graffiti all over the subways, all over the streets, and everywhere, but what Jean did was very different from traditional graffiti. He wrote what he thought.
And then when he came to the Canal Zone party and we finally saw who he was and what he looked like.
Samo, S-A-M-O. Come on, you've seen it on the walls everywhere, especially down the village. This gentleman right here is Samo.
Then it became even bigger. Then he was on you know, Glenn O'Brien's TV Party, and people would see him on cable television around the city.
Tonight, we're lucky enough to have with us probably the most language-oriented of all graffiti artists in New York, Samo, and his associate. Samo, sorry.
It's Mr. Samo. It's my personal secretary.
Sorry, Mr. Samo. Well, you know, you see it written on the walls and you don't know how to pronounce it. Do you write something different every time, or do you write the, you know?
I've written the same thing before, just, it all depends, you know, like how inspired I feel.
What's the last thing you wrote?
Which of the following political symbols is omnipresent? A, television, B, the church, C, McDonald's, and D, Samo.
Naya Bengi, coming through on the MIC. Easy, like 1, 2, 3. Making jazzy music is the key. Open sesame, here come Naya man, abracadabra. Catch me if you can. Once again with the mic in my hand. And the Eric Trifak Quartet on the bandstand.
Based on the history of New York, based on, yes, there was a big club scene, we had this incredible opportunity to enjoy all kinds of music. First of all, at the Mud Club, the DJs at the Mud Club played all kinds of music. They played punk, new wave, soul, old records, funk, early hip-hop music. We were listening to everything. Oh, it was so much fun. We were creating all kinds of film and all kinds of painting and art.
Naya Bengi, coming through on the MIC.
Once again, I was down at the Mud Club, and we ran into one another. Said, well, I'm starting a band with Michael Holman and a couple other guys, and we're rehearsing tomorrow night. You want to come on by?
And it was myself, Jean-Michel Basquiat, Nick Taylor, and Wayne Clifford. When it was the four of us, it was like solid, like, this is the band. And he said, I have the name of the band. I said, what is it? And he said, Gray.
I thought Gray was really interesting because they were more like a jazz band than anything else. I mean, they kind of took this sort of avant-garde stance. And none of them were really trained musicians, although they were all musical.
I would say the music of Gray is based on the sounds of improvisation, but we actually had a set where we had maybe between 10 and 15 songs Jean-Michel would actually name all of the songs. We had great names like Braille Teeth or Podium Fools or Red Ants. Mona Lisa was another name.
On a vu Samo is dead. Samo is dead. Ça voulait dire quoi? Ça y est, je suis plus Samo, c'est fini. J'écris plus sur les murs. Je me concentre sur la peinture, sur le dessin, sur la sculpture, sur ce que je trouve dans la rue, sur ce que je récupère. And my name is Jean-Michel.
The clock strikes dead on midnight. Bugs fly through the hole.
I met him when that was finished, right when he was ending Samo. We met when I was working in a bar in the East Village called Nightbirds. It was a sleazy bar, like a hole-in-the-wall, a dive bar. And I was a little bit frightened of him because his clothes were too big, and he had a big overcoat that was much too big for him, and he looked homeless. He had a very elegant way of moving, and often when he was walking, he would walk in a zigzag. He could never just walk a straight line. His hair was shaved. It was a very strange haircut.
He had the sort of like African Mohawk haircut, and I took some really interesting headshots, and he was only 17 years old at that time.
He didn't want me to walk with him. I would have to walk behind him like a Japanese woman. It was a very odd relationship that we had. He had these little black and white notebooks, and he would write in them. He would read me his poetry. At that time, he was writing a lot in these notebooks. When I met him, he was actually filming the movie Downtown 81.